Yo, I'm Jay Beersank. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Here for another edition of Journal Talks, where we go into my journal, flip to a random page, and we talk about it. Why? Who knows? Maybe for me, maybe for you, maybe for wisdom, maybe for knowledge, maybe for laughter, maybe for nothing. But hey, it's fun. It's better than nothing. I'm doing amazing. I've been at my apartment here in Chiang Mai, doing a lot of gardening, a lot of working. Been digging a lot of holes. My hands are all screwed up, digging lots of holes. I've been working out here in my apartment a lot. Been doing lots of like static strength yoga poses, a lot of crow pose, a lot of high planks, a lot of planks, a lot of upward dog, or what that's called, downward dog, the one with one for your shoulders where your butt's in the air. A lot of that, a lot of bridging. I try to hold it for like 5 minutes, like with the one arm push-up. I try to do that for 2 minutes. Try to do the plank, the high plank for 10. Like just try to do lots of stuff for 10 minutes as long as I can. It's been killer. Feeling good, feeling so satisfied and accomplished. But then I remembered I'm not doing any YouTube content, so I had, hey, let's not do another journal talk, huh? let's do another journal talk, huh? That's what I meant to say. Okay. Here we go. Oh. Okay, February 1st, 2019. This is the Marcus Aurelius quote. Let's get into some Marcus Aurelius rational mind, leadership, militant man wisdom here. If you don't know, for when we say Marcus Aurelius, it's out of his book Meditations. I've talked about this before in my journal talks. What I do from that book, every so often, I have the book in my room here, and I've had it now for maybe about 4 months. What I do is I pick an excerpt out of that book, because the way it's written is like there's tons of little excerpts. I take an excerpt out of it, and then I translate it into a language that is more conducive for me to use, more pragmatic, more aligned with the way that I view the world. Because Marcus Aurelius' way, very unemotional, very rational, pragmatic for him, but it's a little bit straightforward, masculine, not esoteric and spiritual enough for me, so I translate them into my own words. And not even that, but it's just like, you know, it's fun to really think about the ideas, because you know, when a book has tons of little excerpts, you've read books like that that just have a bunch of little quotes. Sometimes you can just like read, you know, 50 quotes in a day, and you don't really think about them. But if you take the time to write down the quote and like really go through it and translate it into your own words, you can realize like, wow, there's a lot that I can get out of this if I take my time. So instead of reading 50 a day, I read 1 or 2, and I write it down and then I translate it. So here we go. Marcus Aurelius' quote is, to move from one unselfish action to another with God in mind, only there is delight and stillness. To move from one unselfish action to another. So, you know, living your day with, you know, in mind that you're not trying to be self-gratifying and that you're not just out for yourself. So service to others, that's how I translate that. To move from one service action to another with God in mind. God, I translate that to the highest ideals, the most high, the meta morality of the universe and of right and of humankind. Meta morality is God. So to move from service action to another with the highest morality in mind, only there is stillness and delight. So delight, happiness, stillness would be confidence and presence. So, the way I translated this. Quotations, with God in mind. Acting intentionally with the highest ideals in mind. Oh, like I said, I didn't even read it off here. That's just, I just knew what I was thinking. With God in mind. Acting intentionally with the highest ideals in mind. No room to sin. I put sin in quotations. Sin, I believe, comes from a root word that means to miss. It's an archery term. To sin is to miss the mark of something. So when you say you're sinning, you're missing the mark of, let's say, being alive at the point of life. So when you sin, you miss. So I said, with God in mind, acting intentionally with the highest ideals in mind. No room to sin or miss. If you're curious what the highest ideals are, we've talked about that a lot in the other journal talks. You can go check like the Exploratory Hero one or The Way. Those episodes, I believe we talked about the, you know, highest ideals and what that means. There's no room to sin, miss. when aimed towards the sun, what I mean aim towards the sun. So there's no room to miss when you're aimed towards the sun. When I think of the sun, I think of like this highest morality. I think of stars and the sun as the embodiment of this highest morality, because it's like you look up to the sky and you see this big beautiful ball of energy just burning up there. You realize like, okay, there are powers that are so far beyond me and so incomprehensible and just make you feel so small. But then you can also think about that kind of being like a representation of what's inside of you. That's what I think of. Like I try to think of like my internal combustion being like the sun. Like my energy can turn into a radiant sun inside of me if I just kind of like believe and embody that. So you can never miss when you aim towards something so grandiose and so beautiful, because even if you become a fraction of that, it's still just a miraculous feat. So anyway, when aimed towards the sun, you can never miss. A life of service is a life of peaceful purpose. I'm embarking upon this path and I'm quite happy with the scenery along the way. Okay, so when I say I'm embarking upon this path, like the past couple years of my life and like this trip of especially, I've been traveling now for about 4 months. I tried to make, or I am making this trip of like, I try to give back. So I'm living in this apartment right now. In exchange, I give back to a woman. I garden for her and I landscape for her, and I help. And before I was working on a Cambodian island, I gave back by working at the hotel there. Before that, I've done lots of stuff, and I've always liked to volunteer, I've always liked to give back, so that's what I meant by embarking on this path. And quite happy with the scenery along the way. By scenery along the way, I mean you see a lot of happy people, man. You see a lot of smiles, you feel a lot of humble fulfillment. There's not grand, huge accomplishments, there are not huge public displays of wealth or accomplishment, but you get beautiful scenery along the way. You get shining hearts and bright smiles, and I couldn't ask for much more than that. Surrender, God in mind. Your vision and relationship with God is only powerful when you surrender and trust the God. And I put in parentheses logos, because in Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, the way that he defines God is logos, and logos is kind of like the idea of animism. I don't know if you've ever heard of animism, but animism is talked about in a book called Ishmael, which I highly recommend, by Daniel Quinn. Animism is just the idea that there is this kind of eternal life force energy that basically animates everything everywhere. So every living thing and everything is kind of animated with this same universal energy. And when you believe that, then you can kind of see and you have things in common with the outside world, so you can resonate and you can have empathy and you can care and you can see yourself in other things just as much as they can see themselves in you. So there's reason to care and reason to love and reason to try to connect with this more universal energy rather than this kind of like material energy that is things, I guess, inanimate objects. So I was saying that your relationship with God is only powerful when you surrender to whatever you believe in. So if you just believe in something but you don't really ever live your life according to the fact that you do believe it, then it's basically like you don't believe it. You know, obviously that might not make sense, but it's like you can't say that you believe in the power of money and you believe that you got to have money to have a good life, and then you also say, well, I don't want money but I'm still going to have a good life. It's like you either believe it or you don't, you know. And I mean, like, you can say that you can have all these contradicting beliefs. You can have all these contradicting beliefs, but it's not very empowering. It's not going to keep you afloat very well. So kind of what I was saying is, like, if you really want to be empowered by your faith and by your God, then you have to believe and really trust and surrender to your God, or else you're never really going to have that open channel to be sourced the divine wisdom and divine energy that can come from connection to a higher power. That's what I meant there. You don't have to think when you have your intuition in tune with your God. You just pray, live, work, and love from your God. Yeah, that's a good point. You don't have to think about your actions when you're just trusting in your God, because, like, usually your God will give your life some kind of meaning. That's what religion does, I think, is helps you give your life meaning and helps you gives you purpose, gives your life a purpose and a responsibility and an understanding of why you're here, what you're doing, and where you're going. That's, like, I think the whole point of religion, the whole point of spirituality is to ground you and calibrate you into a culture and into a society, so then you can basically have a reason to keep going. So when you surrender to that, then you don't have to think about what's right and what's wrong, because you're just acting out of that inherent kind of belief system. So it makes my life much easier because, like I said here, you just pray, live, work, and love. It's a simple life. Thank you, I love you. ... Today I fell through the floor of my bungalow. This was really funny. I was brushing my teeth in Cambodia on the island on February 1st. I guess this was the day after I fell through the floor. So when I was living on this island, we were living in these like old rickety shacks on the beach, and they were pretty high off the ground, maybe like 3 meters, so maybe like 10 feet off the ground. And they were pretty old, man. Like, they hadn't been serviced in a while, and like it was always kind of rickety, and like you'd walk in it and you'd be like, oh, like I didn't go in a certain corner in the back because I knew it was just like a sketchy corner. But anyway, so this was the first time I'd ever had 2 people on my porch, and I was like, all right, this isn't too bad, and it had rained really bad like 3 nights ago, but I wasn't really thinking about it because it was like, oh cool, we're just hanging out, smoking spliffs, chilling on my porch. And I remember I was brushing my teeth, and I was with a girl named Aurelia, and she was sitting like right where the deck connected to my inside. So it's like you have my porch and my deck, and then it connects to the floor of my living space here. So there's, you know, nails right here, and she was sitting right here on a chair right in between those two, you know, like basically right where the nails were. And then I was brushing my teeth over here on the porch, and then I walked back in. When I stepped over the threshold, it just collapsed completely. And it was in the middle of the night, and you know, this is like a rusty nail old shack, and fell through the porch. Somehow I ended up like 5 feet over the other way because I don't even know how it happened. I flicked into some crazy response and jumped somehow, or got out of the way. Nobody got hurt, which was a goddamn blessing, but she ended up like, I looked back and she was sitting in a chair literally with her ass through the chair, like, you know, that kind of like funny like picture where it's like someone is sitting with their legs like up that way, you know, and they're like asses in the chair. It was like that, and she was in the middle of all these broken boards and rusty nails, and we both just look at each other and we just start fucking cracking up because like we knew the moment we locked eyes that no one's hurt, so it's okay. But it was just like, basically we were, you know, 2 21-year-old kids. She's from London, I'm from, you know, United States, and we just fell through this old rickety porch, and we're like in paradise. We're just like, what the fuck kind of life this is, you know? It's so funny. And yeah, no one cared. I had like a broken porch for like 2 weeks until finally someone fixed it. It was so funny. I had to like climb up all the broken boards, like put my foot on a broken board and then like push it up and jump into my house every night. It was ridiculous. But no one got hurt, and it was a blessing. But it was so surreal. It was like literally one of those moments where like my adrenaline was just like boom. And then I looked back, make sure she was okay, and she was okay, and then it was just like okay. Was on the porch too. Aurelia was on the porch too. Neither of us got hurt, which I'm eternally grateful for. After that, we slept together. I suppose it was about time. Yeah, I guess it was about time. I've been thinking like this girl. I was like, oh man, she's so beautiful. We've been working together for a couple weeks, and I guess I was just like, yeah, I guess it's about time. I don't know. I don't know how to come back from that one. Yeah, it was beautiful. The island life has really evened out. Not much to say besides it's an adventure. Life is crazy. Smiley face, winky face. So yeah, let's just leave it at that, guys. Island life has really evened out. Not much to say besides it's an adventure. Life is crazy. And I don't mean island life, I mean life. When you just surrender to your God and you live accordingly, life is crazy, man. It's beautiful, it's synchronistic, it's empowering, it's sad, it's hard, it's crazy, but it's worth it. So surrender to your God, live a good life. Thank you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Journal Talks. We'll have another one soon. You can check out some other videos on my YouTube channel, maybe the Cambodian island vlog if you're interested to see that island. It's very beautiful. And with that, stay safe, stay in the light, stay in the love. Peace out, take it easy.